All righty, boys and girls, welcome back. The band is together again to another episode of the Red, White, Claret, and Blue Show. We are your illustrious co-hosts. I am Alex Baquero, and this is Chris Scott Lang Condit, your American villain voices, as always, serving up the lukewarmest of lukewarm opinions. Before we find out if Chris actually knows who Scott Lang is, please go like, follow, rate, review, subscribe, all the places below our faces. Chris, is your face just a continuation of that unenthused dancing that you gave us during the opening music, or do you have no idea who Scott Lang is?
I have no. How about both? Can it be both? But yes, the reason for a lack of reaction in my face is because I have absolutely no idea who Scott Lang is. Who is Scott Lang?
So Scott Lang is Ant-Man in the Marvel universe.
Okay.
So before this, we were talking about you being a little man. Therefore, Ant-Man, Scott Lang. Yeah, there's levels to it.
That's a lot of levels, and
we'll see if anyone slide tackles into the DMs and knew that one right away.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'm much more like DC than Marvel, if I'm either. But and even that is just like Batman, Superman. I don't need all the other stuff. It's too many. There's too many. There's too many Avengers. There's.
Oh yeah, absolutely there are.
Like, there's just too much. I don't need all this. So. Batman, Superman, I'm good.
And not only are there too much, but there's too many superheroes, and then you need to deal with them across multiple parallel universes. Yeah. So now multiply that out for how many Earths that you want. Yeah. And then we need to somehow believe that a rich man with a lot of technology, aka Iron Man, is somehow on par with an interdimensional god.
Yeah,
Dr. Doom or a multi-planetary warrior like Thanos. I just don't. There's levels to your nickname. There are levels to what would require of strength and brawn that I don't see when Mars ultimately attacks us. Elon Musk in a Cybertruck suit being able to defend the entire planet.
That's a fair point. I don't have time for that, man. I just don't. I can't keep up with all that. There's a reason that I liked Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy the best. It's because he kept it very much largely grounded in as real as can be type stuff in movies. Even Bane, he toned down from the not Venom, but the essentially steroid taking guy that he is in the comic books, taking the chemical compound that makes him huge. He's just a really strong guy in Nolan's universe. So like, I'm good with that. That's better for me. And much easier to follow. And there aren't 1,000 different protagonists and antagonists to keep up with.
Gotcha. Well, you're Paul Rudd in this universe, my friend.
I'll take that though. Attractive man there, Paul Rudd.
That's very true. Listen, you know who could have used some superheroes, Chris? that's Aston Villa.
I don't know if Iron Man gets us out of that.
No, I mean, you put Thanos on that team. I don't think Aston Villa was winning that match against Brighton. That was atrocious. Let's get into it. Let's talk about. So for anybody who's new, we talk a little bit about the lineup. We go through some key moments in the match. We look at the big picture, good points, bad points, and then we talk about the larger implication on the season. So let's get back into our usual recap format, Chris. We were sweating the fitness of João Gomez, and in the days leading up to the match, it seemed like he was very ahead of schedule from that injury that he suffered in the Super Cup defeat. Kind of wish he stayed injured, huh?
He had a really rough day. When the lineup came out and there was no Ollie, you're immediately concerned because the first thing I said was, where are the goals going to come from? Because Ollie Watkins is so instrumental in what Villa have done for the last several years, both how he presses effectively out of possession and his ability to make runs in possession. And Emi Buendia is just not that player, and there's no.
No, he's 5'6".
He's 5'7". He's football heaven.
It's like the line from Rudy. It's like, you're 5 foot nothing. You weigh 100 and nothing.
Yeah. So he's just like, he's never going to be that player. And so it was going to be difficult. But then João Gomez, I believe I texted you and said, has anyone ever made a worse debut in an Aston Villa shirt? And I don't know that the answer on that is yes, because he probably should have been sent off earlier than he was.
I kind of wish he was.
What's that?
Two yellows is only a 1 match suspension.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we would have been better off.
Can Villa appeal the red by appealing for him to get an earlier red for a retroactive yellow?
Actually, he shouldn't have been on the pitch at that point, because he should have had a second yellow like 10 minutes earlier, and he should have only played about 20 minutes of the doggone game. The first yellow card he picked up was, I have to talk about this because it was the most idiotic yellow card I've ever seen in my life. He got a yellow card for asking for a yellow. For those of you watching on video, giving one of these to the referee, asking for a card. That's an automatic yellow card and has been for years now. The worst part about it is the referee gave the yellow card. He gave it. You're appealing to the referee for something he was going to give. You didn't give him a chance to brandish the card. Are you insane? What are you doing? I'm sorry, I'm so fired up with that, but it made no sense to me. And I was watching it with Big Walt, because Big Walt's in town. Shout out Big Walt. And as soon as Gomez gave the little thing and brandished the fake card, I said, well, that's a yellow. And boom, there it was. And you found out then a few minutes later that I forget who it was for Brighton, who also picked up a yellow on the same play. But the referee did what he was supposed to do and gave a yellow card. You just didn't give him a chance to. And you picked up the dumbest yellow in the history of the Premier League, maybe. I'd have to really think back, but it's up there.
I'm sure there have been other dumb yellow, but yeah.
Yeah, but like, good Lord. And it got worse from there. So that was the high point.
Yeah. Just to rewind a little bit to my thought when I saw the lineup overall, because I have nothing to add to your João Gomez rant. I, like you, see no Ollie Watkins. I see no recognized striker in the lineup at all, because Majo and Tammy Abraham are both injured, and think, okay, we're trying to get out of this 0-0, 1-1, whatever. Like we're playing for the draw and maybe try to nick one. But I look at the back line and I see, Kamara, João Gomez, Matty Cash, Pau Torres, Ian Maatson. You've got 3 guys who started consistently in the back line last year.
Victor Lindelof
was fine, but 3 of those 4 started over half our matches, right? 3 quarters for Cash and Pau Torres. And then you put Marco Biza behind them, who is a number 2 that I think we all rate really highly. And I thought, you know what? Okay, not great going forward, but I'm okay with this back 6, back 7, if you want to include the goalie with it. Like this is pretty much the best that we can do right now. And within the first 10 minutes of the game, it was like the complete and utter opposite. The press works up high. Emi Buendia gets an opportunity on his left foot that he puts just like a foot wide of the post. And maybe we're talking about a very different game if he finishes. But McGinn had a couple opportunities within the first 30 minutes. Hemmings was able to make some runs in behind. João Gomez had a bursting run through the middle that he should have slipped Hemmings into the left, and he didn't. He wound up playing to McGinn. Like, Villa actually created.
They did.
With that front 5. The problem was it was the goddamn Keystone Cops amongst the back 4. Whether it's Matty Cash keeping people on sides again because he can't hold a line, Pau Torres seemingly forgetting how to play football all of a sudden and make a pass. Chris, we can go goal by goal and talk about the comedy of errors that there were for each one. But I think the bigger thing that we should discuss is the fact that none of these were the product of good play by Brighton. You have an errant pass by Pau Torres in the first one that leaves Bizot. He's kind of out in no man's land. And then you have the own goal on Victor Lindelof.
Yeah.
Goal 2, route 1 stuff. Pau Torres comes across. He needs to block the cross, but Victor Lindelof needs to have an eye on the runner in behind him, loses him. Easy stuff. Goal 3, easy cross to the back post. They win the header, and then they get the late runner to knock it in. And then goal 4, what the F is Gomez doing, leaving Bizot out there to dry? Like, very basic man marking, win your headers, block your crosses.
Yep.
Who is receiving the most fault for this? Pau Torres, Victor Lindelof, Ezri Konsa, or Marco Bizot?
Well, it's not Bizot for me, because I think like you could you could say that he was out of position at times and made mistakes, but I mean, before you could even blink, they were down 2-0, and neither of those first 2 goals was his fault for me. Certainly not the first one. I would most blame, I think, if we're talking about it, like Pau Torres, what happened? And I mean that legitimately. What happened out there? The first goal, you said an errant pass by Pau Torres. Unless that was what he was trying. Did he forget what player he was passing to? Because it was like the perfect cross to set up the goal. Again, watching it in my living room, as soon as Torres released that ball, I screamed, "What are you doing?" Because I could see exactly where that was going. It ended up exactly as you would expect. So I think probably Torres, but the only thing that I'll say to kind of counteract where you said the goals weren't due to good play from Brighton, maybe not individually during those sequences necessarily, but like I think Brighton applied pressure very well. Brighton won every second ball.
The desire was there for them.
Yeah. I think Villa now I also think that Villa had space to operate at times out of the press and didn't. Like Pau Torres was a turnover machine, which is not something that we're typically used to seeing. McGinn struggled. He was able to keep players on the turn somewhat, and that's where you would really have expected this to work, was against that press, get it to McGinn, he gets turn, and we move. But that didn't really seem to take off. I thought from you mentioned Hemmings, I thought he played relatively well in spots, but he at times also looked like a 19-year-old kid playing in a Premier League game. If I'm blaming one person, it's Torres. But on the whole, I don't think anybody really had a good day in the first half anyway. And I think that if you would have told me that Aston Villa would have had less than 30% possession against Brighton and Hove Albion, I would have probably told you that I would eat my shoe if that were the case. I can only imagine if there were such a betting line, what that line would be. You would never expect Brighton to come out and have 72% possession against Aston Villa. I mean, it looked like PSG against Arsenal, except Villa weren't setting up necessarily to attack. But I don't think the plan was to not possess the ball at all. And I realize I just went on a long rant here, but I'm so flabbergasted and flabbergasted and flustered. I was shocked by what I saw. I was shocked by what I saw in the match on Sunday.
So I intentionally didn't give you what I think the main culprit of this awful disorganization was. And that is the lack of Hemi Martinez behind this back line. I think a lot of people will immediately 4-0 point to the loss of Ezri Konsa and say, well, there it is. Ezri Konsa, great England defender. You take him out. Villa's defense sucked. And yes, we've seen all the stats come out about Aston Villa's win percentage with Ezri Konsa, how great of a one-on-one defender he is. I've also said he wasn't immune to making some pretty big mistakes over the course of last season, every once in a while. And the other thing that I would say Ezri Konsa never was a vocal leader marshaling the back line. He was a bit of a hothead. He could get into it with other players a little bit. He was certainly able to mix it up and scrap, but he was never that Tyrone Mings where like you just saw him shouting at everybody to marshal the back line. I think once Tyrone Mings ultimately, when the team kind of evolved beyond him and you were looking at a consistent back line of Cash, Konsa, Torres, and whether it was Luka Dean or Ian Maatson is almost irrelevant. The person that marshaled that back line was Emi Martinez. We know he's a vocal leader. We know that he's a world champion. And so what I think you saw yesterday on Sunday morning was the fact that you had a back five, really back six when you take Kamara and João Gomez into the fold. None of those players are, I hate to put it this way, but like none of those players are leaders. Yeah. I don't think. You're not going to expect your number 2 goalie to be a leader. That's for sure. And of the players remaining on the pitch, like I guess you could say Victor Lindelof, Swedish international. Like, I don't know, maybe like you would want him to fill that role, but he hasn't gotten enough minutes with any of these players to, or with Unai Emery to really say that he's the one who's going to do it. And so, you know, when you have errors like Matty Cash not stepping up to pull the player off sides, when you have errors like Pau Torres coming across to the right side and Victor Lindelof needing to cover him on the left side and not necessarily doing it effectively, that's where I begin to point to communication and a lack of leadership as opposed to putting the blame on any one player.
That's a fair point too. But Pau Torres did pass directly to a Brighton player.
And you can't really do anything about that. So, Chris, we're down 4-0 at halftime. We've lost João Gomez to his absolutely moronic red card. I was saying in the pub, by the way, like they were like, why, as you're falling down, are you kicking out at the guy? I was like, yeah, if anything, I'm going limp and hoping I get stepped on so that they get the red card, right?
Yeah, John Duran, right? Like
John Duran. Yeah, let me roll under the stepping leg. Don't let me kick out at him. So
it was idiotic.
Idiotic. He'll be gone for the next 3 matches, I would presume. And so I was saying to the guys at the pub at half, listen, at this point, if we end it 4-0, that's a victory. Shut it down in the second half, get some opportunities where you can. But like our goal here is to not let it balloon to what it became the last time a Premier League team gave up 4 goals in the first half and got a red card. And that was Southampton losing 9-0 to Manchester United. Right. If we lost 6, 7, 8, 9-0 to Brighton, I mean, I was on my solo pod last week preaching patience with Unai Emery and this team. I'm not sure how much patience there would be after a 9-0 thrashing. And so to their credit, you know, Aston Villa did do that. Were Brighton completely devoid of opportunities? No. Did they take their foot off the gas? Probably a bit. But they kept it 0-0 in the second half. They got that draw, and they did get a few opportunities themselves. Is there anything else that we can really take away from that other than that McGinn is super lucky to not give away a penalty in the 80th minute?
That's a stonewall penalty for me. And it was later on in the day in another game, you know, and it's the cause of much consternation. I was shocked when that was A, not given on the pitch, and B, not given on VAR, because that's a penalty. It's a penalty all day. The only thing you could potentially argue is that the ball might be running away, but I don't think that's the case.
You know, I'm usually the advocate of if he's not getting to the ball, then it's not a penalty. I thought he was absolutely getting to that ball on the other side of McGinn.
I mean, for me, it's an absolute stonewall penalty, and McGinn is super fortunate. And we see yet again extremely inconsistent application of the rules by Premier League officials from one game to the next, because I mean, if you guys, everybody probably knows what I'm referring to, but in the Liverpool Newcastle game later on that same day, the almost exact same situation happens, and it's ruled a penalty, and it's the reason that Liverpool were able to level with Newcastle. So we have two exact same, almost as exact as you're going to get, in a soccer game, and two different results of those two situations. So if that isn't bad refereeing, I don't know what is. And
atrocious refereeing.
I'll continue to say that, right? So either one is, or either they're both penalties or neither is, and it can't be both. And right now,
you've
got Schrodinger's penalty.
Nice.
Yeah.
Chris, I guess the other thing I want to ask you about, Unai, I think, understandably emptied the bench.
Yep.
Tyrone Mings comes on to shore things up, and Pau Torres was having an awful day, deserved to be subbed. Ruggeri comes on, Bogard comes on, I think Burrows comes on. I'm not looking at the box score in front of me, so I'm
Garnacho,
sure
Allison.
Garnacho and Allison.
Yeah, it was not Burrows. It was Garnacho, Allison, Bogard.
That's what it was.
Ruggeri and Mings. Yeah.
Hemmings went a full 90, I think.
Let me pull it. I think so. Yes, he did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting experimentation from Unai Emery, who is typically reticent to do so in any match. I think that says, probably to reinforce what I was saying last week, it's almost like the first handful of matches at this point, with all the turnover in the team, is an extended preseason at this point. Yeah. We're going to take what we're going to get. Unai Emery is trying to figure out who fits his system, what his system is even going to be with the players at his disposal. And so I think as much as this one hurt, as much as this one sucks, and spoiler for the next one, as much as I think Arsenal is going to hurt on Monday, we have to keep the faith, because this is evidence to me that there is still some tinkering that needs figured out.
Yeah, and I mean, you could see it in the game. They were using different formations. I think they were objectively in a 4-2-3-1, right? But then you saw at times in out of possession, which was the bulk of the game, but out of possession, they were almost playing like a defensive 4-4-2, or they would pull 5 at the back. So there were things being done that we don't typically see with an Unai Emery team, but there's been so much turnover in the squad, and so much recent turnover within the squad, and so many players that we've brought on that we've not been able to bed in yet. So it's kind of a bad situation all around, because some of the players we brought in are injured, some weren't yet ready to go, like Suzuki, and then so we're filling holes with whatever plaster we've got available, and that happened to be Emi Buendia up top as a false 9 and 19-year-old George Hemmings, and then we're playing with 10. So there's that.
Yeah. Listen, to get the last bad point out there, it's one thing to be playing a formation without a recognized striker. I will just say Spain won a World Cup without playing with a recognized striker back in 2010. You can't excuse the fact that, as you noted earlier, it just seemed like Brighton wanted it more.
Yep.
It just did not seem like these players were out to prove a point, to prove that they were still talented despite all the departures. And we'll talk about it in a sec, the way the odds are moving on Villa's season. And that I as a human, I understand it. As someone who read Ezri Konsa's Players Tribune piece last year about how the players were clearly shaken by all the transfer speculation over the previous summer. And so that was kind of some of what happened over the first 5 or so matches when they started. So I can understand all of that on a human level. You still just want to see a little bit more fire and desire out of these guys. Now, we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel to come up with a couple good points here. I do wonder if you have any, but at least 2 to me. Hemming still looked good. I'm excited to see more of him out of this year. As I mentioned, we thought the offense would really struggle, but at least early returns, if they finish a couple of those, we're talking about a completely different game. So they were able to carve out some opportunities. And I do think that individual errors, particularly the cacophony of individual errors that we had in that match, is unlikely to be replicated. That's something that is easier to clean up, I feel like, than issues that feel more structural, like last year, Aston Villa's inability to break down a team in a low block is a much more difficult thing to figure out than hoping that Pau Torres doesn't just give perfect cutbacks to the opposition every single game.
Yeah, I struggle to find good points other than that they played even up in the second half with down to 10. Even if Brighton had taken their foot off the gas, I was pretty disheartened by what we saw, and I only can hope and think that with the players coming in, that that Emery will be able to right the ship, because I don't think this is going to be a season where Villa are going, and we're getting into this, but this is not going to be a season where Villa are going to be relegated or anything like that. It's just a really rough start, and we're going to talk about this later too. And now your next game is against the defending Premier League champions and the team that absolutely looked the best over the weekend in Arsenal. So it's going to be rough for the first couple of games here.
Yeah, so you said it. Larger implication on the season. If we're going to take a lukewarm view on what happened Sunday, you get a red card in the 30th minute. You've got all these players that have left. You clearly have not finished your transfer business in the window on players to either bring in or potentially, in the case of Ollie Watkins, to reintegrate. It is what it is. We're trying stuff out for the first month or two, and we got to get used to that. So no real large implication on the season for us, I don't think, unless you feel differently.
No.
It has, however, been with the bookies. Unai Emery has dropped from like 60-1 to like 6-1 as the first manager to be fired. There was the most handle moving, I think, later on Sunday on Aston Villa to be relegated from the Premier League. Talk about an overreaction, yeah. I think, to one performance, and a complete ignoring, not just of his tenure at Aston Villa, but of his entire tenure as a manager, right, for Unai Emery.
Yeah, I'd say two things. One, to talk about Emery, there's never zero chance, but it's as close to zero as you can get that Unai Emery is going to get sacked by Aston Villa. If anything, this summer has made the fan base rally behind Emery even more than they already have, right? And he's become almost this godlike figure at the club for the fans, you know? So he would really have to go on quite a downward spin to lose that fan base. But I also just think that eventually he'll end up getting it right. You know, that it was a bad day, that's for sure. But he will get it fixed and he'll get it right, and Villa will end up fighting where they always do, right? I think. But in terms of the movement on the lines, both his first to be sacked and then Villa to be relegated, little gambling tip. If you see early movement on something, so an immediate reaction to a result, something like that, that generally speaking means that there's minnows coming in with a bunch of small bets that are moving the line. Late moving lines are the signs that sharks are coming in and placing large wagers. And so I think this was a bunch of, frankly, guys like you and me putting a $5 bet on Unai Emery to get sacked, be the first one sacked, and Villa to get relegated, parlay that thing, and, probably get you plus 300 odds or something like that, So that'd be my guess based on how quickly that line moved after the game.
Eddie Howe survived a 14th place finish at Newcastle. I mean, he ultimately quit, but
Yeah, he quit. He didn't get fired, you know?
No, I know, that's my point.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and if he can survive that, I just don't.
Right.
Aston Villa could be in 17th place in March, and I still don't think that Unai Emery would be fired.
They
There's just
called
too
him
much
there for
invested
Alex
in.
Ferguson, you know, right? That's
There's
what
been too much
Master
invested in him
called him.
to overreact, particularly remembering that 2 years ago, last time we lost by 4 goals on the opening match of the season, went on to finish 4th. So
I brought that up, you know, to Big Walt. I did. I said this happened before, and it was. I remember feeling as badly about it, despite the fact that Alex Ferguson thought we looked great. You know, so what did Sir Alex have to say about our performance yesterday? Because hopefully he said we look great.
That's all I got to say on this one, Chris. Should we?
Yeah.
Should we preemptively write the eulogy for Monday?
We have some things to talk about going into Monday, I think, huh? You know.
Yeah. So
we might have to come on for an emergency pod leading into this
Monday, week. 3 p.m. under the lights.
Can't wait.
Against Arsenal. Last year we did win 2-1. We do have a habit of beating Arsenal at least once a year over the past few years. Yep. Then we got hammered 4-1 3 weeks later on December 30th, I think.
Yeah, and we felt real good going into that one too, if I remember right.
We did. Yeah, it was another one where we got around Christmas. We were in a title challenge and that unraveled very quickly in the new year.
Just got smoked. Yeah.
Transfer wise, they have had an unbelievable summer. They really only lost Trossard, who, by the way, I don't know if you saw the clip, just got punched in the face.
No, I didn't.
In the Turkish league match. Yeah, he got absolutely decked, I think, by a goalie.
I was going to say by a player or by a fan. That's a question you might need to ask depending on where in Turkey.
He got kind of like sucker punched.
Did he?
So they lost Trossard and Kuyur. But who they brought in, Bruno Guimaraes feels perfectly made for Arsenal, for Mikel Arteta, and just the S-housery that they have. Obviously, Ezri Konsa, they were able to bring back in Capier. This is a dangerous team that remains dangerous. If you're gonna pick a hole, I guess you could still continue to say that the striker role has not been perfectly solved for. But I think you and I both have picked them to kind of run away with the league this year, as much as it pains us to say it. So they looked great in their opening match of the season. And when you look at every other contender for top 6, top 7, top 8, bar Brighton, they're the only team to really come out in week 1 and do the job.
I agree. So I like, before the season started, if you had asked me, you know, how many teams have a realistic chance at winning the league, it would have been like, I think I even said on the preview pod, it's Arsenal and then maybe Man City. You know, I think was what I suggested. So 2, you know, after this weekend, and this could be an overreaction, but after this weekend, there looks like there's only one team in it. You know, everybody else looks flawed. Everybody else looks much more close together than that. And Arsenal don't have a lot of flaws right now. They have a deep squad. You know, they brought in Ezri Konsa, who, despite the fact that some Arsenal fans seem to think that Villa only sold him because he wanted to go to Arsenal and not because they paid the fee that Villa wanted. And, you know, Konsa's going to get double the wages because the rules are set up so that Arsenal can pay double the wages that Aston Villa can. And I'm just going to get off that soapbox now, but I'm going to always mention it. You know, Konsa's going to come in and probably be much more rotational than he was at Villa, where he was a day in, day out starter. He'll probably get the bulk of the starts.
He'll start until Saliba comes back.
That's exactly where I was going. Right. But you know, it's tough to find an area that you can exploit. If anything, you know, I kind of wish Emi Martinez was available. Not that he isn't physically, but you know, I don't think that's coming back because I like his bravado in situations like this. based on the article that Jacob Tanswell just wrote, is Ollie Watkins going to be available for this game? So Watkins always plays well in big games, or often plays well in big games against the Big Six. So those are the only things I can really point to cling to any kind of hope, because based on the past weekend, this doesn't look like a great matchup at all.
In case anyone hasn't seen that article yet, allegedly Ollie Watkins came back into the squad, had been training alone, had been training separately, and while this thing kind of played out, obviously we've all seen the quotes about Unai Emery saying to ask his agent about why he didn't play. Supposedly he came back and apologized to everybody, Unai Emery included. Are you reintegrating him into
Apology
the squad?
not accepted. I'm the wrong guy to ask, though, because I hold grudges. I'm a small man when it comes to this sort of thing.
Yes, you are, Scott Lang.
So I think it'd be difficult to reintegrate him, but at the same time, you need him. You need somebody to play striker.
I think it is telling that in his press conference, Unai Emery only mentioned Tammy Abraham potentially being fit again for this one. So I think if Tammy is fit, Tammy comes in. Now, that being said, Unai has brought a lot of players in from the cold before. He brought Leon Bailey back from his loan. Now, not that there was any acrimony between Leon Bailey and the squad, but like at the end of the day, I think Unai Emery is a manager who wants to win. And so if he thinks that he is going to have an Ollie Watkins that's 100% focused on this game, I do think that Unai Emery will put whatever feelings he has aside and do what's best for Aston Villa to win the game.
Yeah. Now, the other question that needs to be at least pondered is how do his teammates feel about the apology and the whole situation? Because I mean, you just left them out there on an island with literally no one else to play the position.
It's an interesting psychology of a player, isn't it? Because like I don't know how I know probably a lot of our audience is not very familiar with this, but if you rewind to the 1998 U.S. men's national team, and you had that fiasco between Eric Wijnaldum and John Harkes, right? So for the uninformed, teammate sleeps with his teammate's wife.
Google it.
Best friend's wife, honestly. And ultimately, the manager decided to kick John Harkes, the best player on the team, off the squad for the World Cup. When interviewed afterwards, and to this day, he has maintained this position. Eric Wijnaldum has said, if I were asked, I would want him on the team because I wanted to win, which is mind-boggling to me that you could put aside this man sleeping with your wife behind your back and saying, nah, once we're on the pitch, we're going to figure it out because this is going to allow us to win. And so to your point about like these players, feeling either screwed over, left out to dry by him, having their feelings hurt that way, put that up against, especially if Tammy Abraham is not fit, this is our best chance to win this game, and understanding the business behind all of this. I don't know whether they would look past it or not. It seems like a very tight-knit locker room. You've got a lot of guys that have played with Ollie Watkins for, 5+ years that he's been in Aston Villa. Maybe they do kind of understand. Or I could see it going the complete other way of like, listen, dude, we've been with you in this for half a decade. Like, how could you leave us like that?
Yep. Right. Exactly. The last thing I'll say about Ollie is this. Like, when John Duran's transfer was completed, but not finalized, right, he still put the shirt on and I believe played in the Celtic game, right?
And scored, didn't he?
Scored. That's right. He scored a goal in that game, right? Like, Watkins is trying to force a move to Saudi Arabia and doesn't show up for his team. anytime that you are being called less professional than John Duran, it's time to take a long look in the mirror, Oliver George Watkins. Consider that for a second. And the other thing to piggyback off that is, like, Ollie Watkins, even if a transfer had gone through this window and all that, if he just plays and trains like normal and does what he's supposed to do, he's still a club legend, and he'll never have to buy a drink in Birmingham again. Now that's out the window. Forget about that. I don't think that the reaction would have been so vitriolic if he were moved out for a good fee and just acted like a professional. I think people would have been fine with it. We've seen half the squad go out. That's the nature of the business at the moment. This makes him look so much worse, and it makes his legacy. I mean, it tarnishes his legacy to some extent. To what extent we can debate or not, but there's no question to me that you went from like surefire club legend that can always come back to the club and meet and greet like we did with Peter Witt and all those sort of things, be an ambassador, that sort of stuff, to that, everything of that, you're gone. No, that's never going to happen, because people are going to remember this and not all of the things you did prior to this.
I agree. The thing that's so weird to me about this is the story was set for him. He didn't have to write it, in that if he just waits for this transfer to play out, maybe does a little pushing behind the scenes, and ultimately Aston Villa accept 40 million odd for him, whatever that is, the fan perception, whether he agitated for the move or not, would be the club had to cash in. FPSR, FSCR, FUEFA, you made us get rid of this club legend. We had to accept the Saudi bid, and it hurts, and we're sorry, and we'll miss you forever. Whoever is running his PR, the fact that long before there seemed to be any communication between Al Hilal and Aston Villa, you were already seeing the lines of Ollie Watkins is interested in the move. Ollie Watkins has agreed to terms are not an issue. Ollie Watkins is pushing for a move to Al Hilal. And you and I sat here being like, what? Why are you releasing that component of it? Why do you think that bargaining that way through the media is going to make Aston Villa accept this, or somehow maintain your standing with the fans? And maybe he doesn't care about the fans, about coming back to Birmingham. He's a London kid, never plans to take the train up an hour and a half and set foot in Birmingham ever again after he leaves Aston Villa. Who knows? Right. But it just feels incredibly short-sighted to me, the way his team has tried to agitate for this.
Agree 100%. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And again, if you're just professional, I don't think there'd be some people, but I think by and large the fan base would understand it and get it, and they'll take 40 odd million for a 30-year-old striker.
Yep. So Chris, let me ask you quickly before we get back to the Arsenal match and who we think is actually going to play in it. Clearly, we don't want to talk about that at all. Of the options that are being explored to replace Ollie Watkins, Nicholas Jackson, Mateta Leao were the three name dropped by Jacob Tanswell today. Seems to be continued smoke around our own U.S. born, not U.S. bred, Folarin Balogun at Monaco. Of those four names, who do you think you would like to bring in the most?
So this is going to be bias on my part. It's Balogun, and part of the reason for that is because I see his ability in Unai Emery's system, and I think he would flourish. I think that when you consider Balogun's ability, and we saw some of this during the World Cup, particularly in the lead up to the World Cup, his ability to drive at defenders and take some shots from relative distance with pretty good accuracy. plays well with what Unai Emery's asking him to do. I'd have to look back and see how much he presses because he will be asked to press. But I kind of see, even though Balogun is older, I kind of see the John Duran-esque devil may care type striker attitude, and I think that would do well in Emery's system.
So it's funny that you invoke the name of John Duran, because I actually see a bit of John Duran in Rafael Leao, but not in a good way.
Okay.
And that I think Leao is a bit enigmatic. We've seen him, not to make this another US pod, but openly shout at, scream at, criticize Christian Pulisic because he felt that the team was being too catered to Pulisic and not to him. From what I've read, he kind of blows hot and cold a little bit. So I really am not on the Leao bandwagon. I don't want him. Nicholas Jackson, I just don't see how the money works.
Yeah.
To diminish the profit that you get from Morgan Rogers. And listen, I maybe before our next episode, I'll kind of go back on the last 5 years of Transfermarkt and just see what the ins and outs are and what is kind of being amortized over the coming 5 years to even see if, like, could you take the hit on the Morgan Rogers profit because you've kind of got enough down the line? I don't know.
Right.
But that just feels really difficult to me. I think it is just an easy connection to make because of the connection to Unai Emery. As I've said before, Unai Emery, manage the team. Please stop trying to pick certain players to play on the team. I don't put any stock in Unai Emery wanting him.
Yeah.
Mateta is a good player, but and he's obviously got some pace. He's got a nose for goal. He's big and strong. I don't see him doing the pressing work because Crystal Palace under Glasner really kind of sat deep and then hit on the counter. That's where he was most effective. So I don't know if I see the tactical fit, although he could be an interesting mentor for Brian Maggio, just given the physical profile. I, like you, though, am fully behind Balogun. I think that he is actually very Ollie Watkins-esque in how he plays. And we saw this a lot in the World Cup, that he can hold up play. He's a willing runner into the channels. I think he's a better dribbler than Ollie Watkins. He can create for himself a little bit more than Ollie's been able to. I don't necessarily know that he's the playmaker that Ollie is, but I think he is clearly the kind of natural clinical finisher in the box. And I've said this from the day the first links came out. Attitude-wise, I think he is the most Unai Emery-esque. You saw in the aftermath of the red card, he went up, he shook the ref's hand, he said, I know kids are watching, like that. I need to be a professional about this. It's not the ref's fault, and we're on to the next one. And like that, to me, is the attitude that Unai Emery always has. We're not going to make excuses. We're not going to blame the ref. We're not going to blame PSR. We're not going to blame whatever this is. We're on to the next one because, the work is what matters. And so that in that moment felt really encapsulated in Balogun's attitude as well. And so I think that they would ultimately work well together.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So who do you think actually is going to start for Aston Villa in this game against Arsenal, pal?
Joel Ordonez, because apparently that's our new center back. No, I don't think he'll start. Although I am excited by that buy. I remember scouting him when we were playing Brugge last year. And I think that he's an exciting young 22-year-old prospect. And actually, sorry, last detour. A lot of Belgian Pro League moves to the Premier League this summer.
Yeah, I know.
Solis, the striker Promise, Canadian-Nigerian striker, comes out of the Pro League over, and now Joel Ordonez too. I don't know. Strange. My predicted 11. I think the Bizot Suzuki question is an interesting one. I am not benching Bizot for the 4-goal performance. As you said, I don't think that any of them were really his fault. That being said, Suzuki was brought in to be the number one. He's been here for about 2 weeks now, had some time with his teammates, certainly can't be any worse than it was on Sunday. So you know what? At least I would throw Suzuki in there, but I could see there being one more Marco Bizot match before Suzuki takes the mantle. I don't think that we're seeing any changes in the back line. I think it'll still be Cash, Lindelof, Pau, and then I think it'll still be Maatsen. I don't think Maatsen was necessarily at fault for anything that went wrong on Sunday. Even if Ruggieri is a little bit more stout of a defender coming from Atletico Madrid, I think he needs a little bit more time to figure out Unai's system. In the center of midfield, I think it's going to be Kamara Barkley, but I could see us go with dual sixes of Kamara and Bogard.
That's the only change I've had so far. I'm Kamara Bogard. So just for the record, I've got everything the same as you, but Kamara Bogard. Yeah.
So Kamara Bogard for Chris. I'm gonna say Kamara Barkley just because I don't think that Unai is gonna play Bogard and trust him in that more advanced position. And then in front of them, I think it will be Hemmings, McGinn in the middle, Garnacho on the right, and then Emi Buendia up top again, assuming that Tammy Abraham is not fit. If Tammy Abraham is fit, then I think it'll be Hemmings, Buendia, McGinn with Tammy up top.
I have the same, assuming
Ollie Watkins in the squad.
Yeah. You don't think he's going to be in the squad at all?
I still think he won't be in the squad. Yeah.
Okay.
Until this is settled official of like he's not leaving, 100% definitive. He's not leaving. We put our foot down. It's over. I just don't. I think there's too much bad blood. I don't see how Unai reintegrates him at this point.
I have the same, assuming Abraham, and I hope to God Abraham is healthy, because I really don't want to go through that again. But I have the same up top. I do think I think that Garnacho, there's a question of his fitness, and we're going to have to see him. He came in, I think, 75 minutes or something.
Thereabouts, yeah.
In Brighton. And Emery's always wanted him. We have big questions. You're going to have to put up, kid, because we need production from the front at the moment, and we don't have a lot of options. So I put up or shut up. Let's go. Try and play here and see what happens.
Here's a left field idea, Chris. Is there something that we could do with Hemmings, Buendia, McGinn, and then having Allison or Garnacho not necessarily play down the middle, because I know they're not strikers,
right?
But someone with a little more pace that can kind of float across the front three, interplay a little bit, get in behind.
It's left field.
It's
something we haven't seen, from Emery, really. I wouldn't mind seeing it, but who would really be great at this moment? A guy named Daniel Malen scored a hat trick today. It would be great to have him out there at the moment. It'd be really, really great. Really, really great.
Biggest complaint of the Unai Emery era.
Yeah. I've said it, and I'll say it one last time. It just made no sense. The guy did nothing but score goals and create chances every single time he stepped on the pitch. And he played 10 minutes a game, and we sold him for exactly what we bought him in for. And then he went on to be the best player in Serie A. What happened? And he continues. I would love to have him back right now.
Prediction?
Should I give my prediction?
Mm-hmm.
3-0, 3-0 Arsenal.
I have 4-0 to Arsenal.
God. Oh, it's bleak.
Yeah. It's always darkest before the dawn.
Thank you.
And as it is always darkest before the dawn, it is, as always, up the villa.
Up the villa.
Hi, Mom and Dad.